Hello, I'm Mark Price. I'd like to talk to you today about attitude. But first, a friend of mine down here in Mexico, Millie, sent me what I believe may be the very first home COVID-19 test. I was a bit surprised it came from Mexico first, but nonetheless, she sent it to me. I have it, and I'm going to share it with you. The very first that I'm aware of, home COVID test. Number one, pour a large glass of red wine. Try to smell it. If you can smell the wine, then drink it and see if you can taste it. 3, if you can taste and smell it, it confirms you do not have COVID. Last night I did the test, it says here 19 times, and all were negative, thank God. Tonight I'm going to do the test again because this morning I woke up with a headache and I feel like I'm coming down with something. She says, I'm so nervous. Go wine. The gospel today is from Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. Jesus told his disciples this parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out at dawn to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with them for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. Going out about 9 o'clock, the landowner saw another group of people standing idle in the marketplace, and he said to them, "You too go into my vineyard, and I will give you what is just." So they went off. And he went out again around noon and around 3 o'clock and did likewise. Going out about 5 o'clock, the landowner found others standing around and said to them, "Why do you stand here idle all day?" They answered, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You too go into my vineyard." When it was evening, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Summon the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and ending with the first." When those who had started about 5 o'clock came, each received the usual daily wage. So when the first came, they thought they would receive even more, but each of them also got the usual wage. And on receiving it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last ones worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us. Who bore the day's burden and all the heat?" He said to one of them in reply, "My friend, I am not cheating you. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what is yours and go. What if I wish to give the last one the same as you? Or am I not free to do as I wish with my own money? Are you envious because I am generous? Thus the last will be first, and the first will be last." The gospel of the Lord. So we've heard this before, this story of this parable of the laborers in the vineyard. And I'm going to discuss 2 points from this story tonight, the parable. One is what it meant to the audience that Matthew, the gospel writer Matthew, was writing to in his day, and what it means, I think, to us in our day today. So first, back then, Matthew wrote this gospel in around 80 or 90 AD. The first gospel, by the way, was Mark, and then Matthew and Luke came along and were after Mark and sort of followed Mark's guidelines, if you will, his chronology, but they wrote to their own audiences. And Matthew was writing to an audience that was primarily Jewish, although more and more Gentiles were coming into the people he was reaching out to, speaking to, writing to. So he needed to incorporate that into his writing. So in the story today, the landowner is Jesus. And the vineyard, even going back to Hebrew text in the Old Testament, the vineyard represents Israel. So here you have Israel and Jesus now, the landowner over the vineyard. And what is happening is people are coming into the vineyard at different stages, meaning that they're coming to an understanding of God through Christ. They're coming to understand the teachings of Christ. They want to be disciples and followers of Christ. Some were there for a long time. And in Matthew's audience, they were Jewish people because that was the first Christians. The first believers were people of the Jewish faith. And then, of course, Paul started really reaching out to the Gentiles. They named him the apostle to the Gentiles. And so as Paul was was going all over the Roman Empire trying to create churches and bring people to Christ, more and more Gentiles were coming in. So in today's parable, where it talks about the workers that were there first, and then the workers that came throughout the day, the first ones were the Jewish people that came to Christ, but the ones who were coming sporadically through the day were the Gentiles who were coming in. And there was animosity between the Jews and the Gentiles. The Jewish Christians, the Jewish followers of Christ, were saying, wait, we were here first. Why are you changing things for them? We find that, for example, in the Council of Jerusalem, there were changes made for the non-Jews who came to Christ, for the Gentiles who came to Christ. For example, James at the Council of Jerusalem got rid of the circumcision law. So you have the Jewish Christians who were there first, who are saying, why are you letting them in now? Why are you letting so many in? And why are you changing the rules for them? And Matthew is trying to say, the vineyard is the place we are with God. The vineyard is our reward as followers of Christ. We end up in heaven, and heaven is the same. Doesn't matter if you came yesterday to Christ or if you came 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It is the same. Heaven's the same for everybody. I know I tell a lot of jokes sometimes about, this person goes to heaven and gets this great mansion, and this other person gets a small shack. It's the taxi driver from New York that gets the great big mansion, and the priest or pastor gets the small shack. And they complain to Peter, why does a taxi driver get this great mansion, and why do I get I'm a pastor of a great church, why do I get a small shack? And Peter says, well, because when you preach, people sleep. When he drives, people pray. So what we have to realize is those are jokes. Heaven is the same for everybody. Whether you're new to the vineyard or you've been around a long, long time, the reward is the same. What we should see in this, as Jesus tried to explain in the parable, is that the vineyard owner, Jesus, is a very generous owner. God is generous. God gives to all of us. He opens heaven to all of us. He opens his grace and his mercy and his love and his forgiveness to all of us. And we have to understand that, again, whether we've been at this being a follower, a person of faith for a lot of years, or we're new to it, the benefit, the goodness of God through Christ is the same for all of us. So that's what it was meant to say back then to Matthew's audience. He was just trying to say, quit your complaining that we have these. You should be grateful and happy that more people are coming to the vineyard, whether they're Gentile or Jewish. And you should be happy whether they come at the last minute or they've been around a while. We should be happy with the generosity and the love of God, and that's what we should focus on. Again, my heading for today, my theme is attitude. It's all about our attitude. So, what does it mean to us today? I think one thing it's saying to us today is, do not be people who, when you have your job to do, your work to do, that keeps looking at what other people are doing. Quit looking over your shoulder. What's this person getting paid? What's that person getting paid? So often when I was in business for a lot of years, I would hear a lot of grumbling about, why does this person make this much more money? Why does this person make this or that? And our focus should be on the job we've been assigned to do, the job that we have before us. We should tackle our responsibilities with a focus and with a joy, with a good attitude. Do you have a good attitude about your work and about the life you had ahead of you, about what God has given you in your life? Are you happy that you are a person of faith, whether you're new to it or you've been around a while? Do you wake up in the morning and say, "Good morning, God"? Or do you wake up and say, "Good God morning"? It's all about the attitude. It's all about how we see our work. When we keep looking over our shoulder, we're not able to focus as fully and completely on the work we have to do. When we keep looking at other people and what they're doing and what they're getting, we're not focusing on the things of God like we should. There was a young boy who was throwing a baseball up in the air, and he was swinging, and he missed. threw it up again, swung, miss, threw it up again, swung, miss. 30, 40 times he throws the ball up and he swings and he misses the ball. And a fella comes over to him and says, "Boy, you're really not a very good hitter, are you?" And the little kid says, "No, but I'm a heck of a pitcher." Attitude. Look for the good in all that we do. Look for the good with a grateful heart that we have been chosen by God to come into his vineyard. Embrace our task in the vineyard. Embrace our relationship with God through Christ. Don't look over your shoulder. Have that great attitude. That's how we remain close to God and grow in our relationship with Christ. Amen? This is Mark Price. Thanks for listening.